Well, joining us now to shed more light on how we can improve funding for the ecosystem is Tomi Balogun, an investment advisor. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Tech.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Well, despite a drop in total funding, it appears African startups have closed more deals in 2020 and 2021 than previous years. What would you attribute this increase in seed rounds to, especially amid this pandemic and previous lockdowns?
Honestly, if you ask me, I believe that the pandemic actually showed the need for more digital companies and more tech companies and more companies use building tech-enabled products, right? So with the pandemic and everything that happened in 2020, it became quite obvious that we had to move forward to the future a lot sooner. So we saw a lot of tech-enabled companies in fintech, in health, in e-commerce as well come up, right? So there was a lot of interest on African focused tech companies because there was a clear need for companies like that, especially with what happened with the pandemic. So I think that that was a key reason why we saw an increase in funding for startups in Africa and in Nigeria. Of course, Nigeria always takes the lion's share in terms of startup funding on the African continent, right? So, and of course, we have strong entrepreneurial, system and ecosystem in Nigeria as well. So that's what I believe was one of the main reasons for the increase in startup funding for Nigeria.
Well, per Tech, Africa ranked Nigeria as the top destination for venture capital markets. What do you think? Should we be expecting a raise or a slump in this second quarter?
I don't I wouldn't expect a slump, but I think that we should, be optimistic about the future, and I look forward to a raise. And that's because Nigeria and Lagos remains a key entrepreneurial ecosystem in Africa and in the rest of the world as well. We've seen in the past few months companies like Paystack, get acquired by Stripe. We saw Flutterwave become a unicorn as well. This has brought a lot more attention and a lot more focus on startups in the African space, and especially in big countries like Nigeria, Egypt, the big countries in Africa. So I look forward to more capital coming into Africa, more capital coming into Nigeria. So honestly, I think that, and I expect a raise in startup funding for tech startups in Nigeria. In addition, the pandemic also opened up a lot of people to get interested in investing, right? And of course, the Paystack story and the Flutterwave story as well got a lot of people interested in VC and private equity investing. So we see a lot more VC funds coming up. We see former tech founders setting up VC funds as well to invest in tech startups. So I think there's a lot more interest. There's a lot more funding available. So I expect a raise in 2021.
Well, Tommy, would you agree that, despite the commendable performance in past years, there seems to be more foreign investments than local ones? And what do you think, is the reason for this, if you agree?
A couple of reasons, right? I feel like one is awareness. In terms of the local investors, not a lot of them were aware or are aware about the investment opportunities. You find that access is quite restricted to closed communities or closed parties. If you look at the Paystack story, how many people knew when Paystack was raising funding? How many people knew when Flutterwave was raising funding? And because these companies are not, they're not really in the public space. They really just raise it in private quarters before it comes to the public space. And by the time it comes to the public space, it's already late. And of course, the Silicon Valley story is quite popular. It's quite popular as well. So a lot of startups look to Silicon Valley or look to international investors for funding. I mean, with good reason, because they have they have good precedence with raising funding for startups. And they also believe that once we get funding from the international parties, the local investors will get more interested, right? And there's also education. For a lot of the local investors, there's still a lot more education that needs to come into the space about how VC investing works, about how private equity investing works, to understand the risk associated with that kind of investing, and to know that it is not guaranteed, right? You can actually lose your money. 1 in 10 startups fail, or even a worse, value for those numbers. So it's a lot of education. So I feel like in the past 1 year, the stories that have come to bear in the African tech startup space would increase more local investor appetite for investing in tech startups.
All right, Tommy, just a very quick one. Are you optimistic about the future for local funding in Nigeria?
I am. I'm absolutely optimistic because and I'm optimistic with caution, right? I'm optimistic because there's strength in numbers. We definitely have the numbers in Nigeria. 60% of our population still remain unbanked. Huge opportunity for fintech, huge opportunity for education, huge opportunity for health as well, and across
Indeed.
board. Numbers. We also have a better internet penetration and also phone penetration as well. We're also building a talent pool, right? We see companies like Talent QL coming up. We see global tech giants like Google setting up a global developer space. Facebook is also looking to set up an office in Nigeria, Lagos,
Yeah.
Nigeria. So all of that
Indeed.
should be huge, right? But then my caution will be the political system, right? Because we do exist in a political system. So
We
because
do.
of that, I would stick with caution. We really have a case where there's increasing insecurity concerns. I think we need more political will to steer
All
us
right.
toward growth, right.
So being optimistic with caution. Thank you so much. It's been an interesting conversation, Tomi Balogun, investment advisor. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
That's it on the program today. Thank you a lot for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke. Have a great weekend.